Hi, I'm Al Adamsen. We're back here in Lincoln Hall, Pritzker School of Law, Northwestern University campus. I'm here with Yustina Saleh and Bruce Evans of EMSI. Thanks for being here.
So glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, Saleh, what's your role there at EMSI?
So I am the Svp of Analytics. What does that mean? I create the models that power the data that our users see. So all models related to how to understand roles, how to understand pathways, all that. Like I generate these models that go into the product.
All right, Bruce.
Yeah, and I'm responsible for basically the delivery of EMSI's data into our enterprise and staffing customers. So everything from the products they get, the data that's in there, as well as their experience working with us.
Got it. Now, what's EMSI? EMSI, Economic Modeling Specialists International, for those who don't know. What's your core value proposition? What do you do?
Yeah, I think at its core, the reality is like the way people work around America, around the globe, is big data in that it's data that you can't see. Like you can walk down a street and you see office buildings, you see people scurrying about, but you can't absorb like what are they doing like in Chicago or in LA? What are the jobs that drive this economy? What are the industries that make that happen? So what we're about is taking big data around the way people work. What are the industries that drive an economy or a country? What are the particular jobs, all the way down to like, what are the skills that make up those jobs? So when you see that office tower, like, yeah, what are the skills that are going on there that are enabling this economic activity? And so that's big data, which means it's hidden, right? Yeah. It's too much to understand or absorb. And so what EMSI's trying to do is take all of that and put it in a way that people can actually gain understanding and therefore make better decisions, drive economic prosperity.
So what you're saying is Yustina has a very easy job.
My job is basically to find this intersection between what people like to do, what employers want talent for, and how education and the training system will bring those pieces together. So, and we're finding that the more there is connection, that every individual has a lot to offer to the economy. Yeah. And the more differentiated and diverse, you bring in with your own self, the more productivity in the entire economy. So that sweet spot, that's all I do. It's very simple.
Very simple. Yeah. So bringing educational institutions together with commercial enterprises, together with people themselves, and making sure it all works together.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Well, yeah, obviously there's a host of challenges in that, but there's also immense value. So we go back in this field of people analytics, 5-10 years ago. It would be that a people analytics professional would look at their internal data and try and make sense of it. Mm-hmm. And now they can go to the likes of you all and not only look at the macroeconomic data, but really look at their own organization and how it is appearing relative to these other factors. So how is that insight now being used? Bruce, what are some of the use cases for EMSI?
Yeah, I think to make an economy work, we need this alignment of the skills that the workers have, whether it's in a firm or at the macro country level, the skills that the workers have with the work that needs to be done. And so there's been a lot of talk in America of like the idea of a skills gap, that we have jobs that are looking for people, and then we have people looking for jobs, but those two miss each other because the skills that those people have don't line up with what are needed right now. And so again, that can be at a company level, it can be at a city level, you name it. So what we're trying to do with data is expose those gaps so that we can actually move the needle on them. So if we need more of skill X and we need less of skill Y in this local economy, okay, so how can we get together and start working on that problem? Educational institutions, people analytics teams, voicing those needs. So I think those are the ways where we can build like a common understanding that starts to move the needle on these problems.
And that in turn, correct me if I'm wrong, informs recruiting strategy, location strategy, learning strategy, all those things that historically lacked a lot of the data that you now offer. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's a really fair way to say it. Like you laid out, at the start, People Analytics was really built around the idea of like what's going on in our four walls inside of our building. The reality is like there's these much more macro trends that are going to end up affecting what's going on inside every company. And so understanding those, understanding how our technology is moving, how are the skills changing in this, what's competition is going to happen, like all those things are going to end up affecting like our ability to run our people at our firm.
Exactly.
So, Yustina, as you craft and evolve the product, no doubt you're thinking about how it's going to be used by your customers. And so what are some of your ideal use cases, both in terms of what is happening now and how would you like this data to be used in the future?
So, among the most exciting moments is when I see the context of a role. So let's say there is this company and it has this new role, or it's trying to create a new role for something, let's say robotic surgery. Mm-hmm. And you're looking within the company and they think, okay, no, we don't have anything between our four walls in that field. That's the assumption. So you go and look and start harvesting all the data, and you see that actually you do in your talent. It's in your backyard. You have acquired a company. It's in your backyard right here. It's only 200 people, but they are actually all you need in that area. But let's prove it. And then comparing that exact role elsewhere, and building that benchmark. What do you want to be when you grow up, basically, is really, really fascinating that you see like the could be, and your strengths, and not, sometimes your challenges as well. It comes together in a very interesting way that, are you trying to be a pioneer in this, or are you looking for a purple squirrel, and that's why you're holding yourself behind? And what is the rest of the industry doing? And whenever our users say, like, I just want to look at this specific thing, and I want to look within this area, within this code, within this particular function, and we do that, but then help them see, like, just outside what they could learn from just outside that parameter. It's always an eye-opening experience.
Yeah, both for the individual and the organization, and whoever's like looking at their reference point, whether it be a team, an organization, or themselves relative to the broader system.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Well, you were going to say something?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that's interesting about this data, and so when we talk about external labor market data, talking about really like what do we have from a supply side? That's everything from government sources to where people are reporting the kind of work they do. What do we have from the demand side, from job postings that we're able to access, from around the globe? Compensation always comes into these conversations. At the end of the day, that's sort of that intersection of your supply and demand. Like the less there is, the more they're going to make in those. But I think what's really interesting is we see this applied both at the very macro level of, hey, what city around the globe should we be in, or around the country should we be in? We're going to open, a third engineering center. Like, what's the right place for us, given those things, given supply, demand, and compensation? The data can help tell that story, but it can also, we see it used all the way down at the level of a recruiter interacting with a hiring manager and trying to understand, what are we actually asking for here? Are we asking for a combination of skills that even exist in this market? Are we making the right choices around how we go about sourcing that? So you do see this affecting, like, from the very big picture to all the way down to like a specific hiring manager conversation.
So just to play that back, location strategy, recruiting strategy, and one of the things that I got extraordinarily excited about that you all announced a couple months ago is you're open sourcing your skills database. So many organizations are trying to create taxonomy, trying to figure it out, but you're effectively providing that on demand. Is that correct? So if you can talk to that in relation to what is now Workforce Planning 2.0. How about you, Bruce? What are your thoughts on that first?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've put a lot of time and attention towards skills because we do see this as sort of the currency of that 2.0 world. You know, the fact that certainly a government SOC code probably doesn't tell the story about what any of us do, but even a job title, like we might have a job title at our firm EMSI that's the same as a job title at Microsoft and at GM, you know, a software engineer one, for example. The reality is like the stack of skills that we're looking for across those three firms, really different, even though, so on one hand, like software engineer is a great proxy for like, hey, we kind of know what this person does. On the other hand, when it comes to like, what location should we be in, what people are we recruiting, where do these stack of skills we need live, like it's a really different question that's going to provide a really different answer. So that's what's led us to really think heavily about skills and being able to say, like, we've got to get below that job title to really the stack of skills that are key to this position, because as we do that, it does unlock a whole bunch of other things, including mobility.
Yes, yes. And like our idea of opening this up is to create that common language. So if, you know, there are so many languages in the world that went extinct. If you don't use the language, no, it will go extinct. So if you are offering it and encouraging people to start practicing their language, the new skills language, on the employer side, on the you know, the higher ed side, the training providers, the individual side, then that will create like that connection between the dots, between these circles much more efficiently. So right now there is a you know, a lot of skills shortages, and it is funny that sometimes the employer will say, like, you know, it's a gap and a shortage, you know, a surplus and a shortage, as there are a lot of people but they are not exactly what we need. And you're not sending the right signals because you're speaking a different language, and everybody is speaking that different language. So if we are starting to create that adoption, and basically instead of just us in R&D creating these ontologies and taxonomies, everybody is involved in it because it's an open source now, then we sort of catalyze the process of adoption and connection between these circles. That's the hope.
I mean, personally, I love it for a lot of reasons. If I'm a listener, if I'm a business leader, HR leader, recruiter, what have you, might be saying, well, we're different. Yeah, we're special. How would you respond to that?
Let's put that to the test, right? And that is the exciting thing. Are you different? Okay, yes and no. And are you different in the right way? Is also a big question. Like, again, are you trying to build a unicorn? Are you gonna, you know, are you insisting on being the Superman that will fly, or are you really being a pioneer in something? And with the more we're using the skills language, and as we are progressing in our skills ontology a lot faster. So we are seeing the nuances in the evolution and transformation of jobs a lot faster. Yeah. So we can gauge and say this is where it is different but artificially different, and this is where it is different and unique, and you know, according to your strategic vision.
Well, I had a colleague, head of people analytics at a well-known company. We all know that name, and he contended that his priorities around his budget revolve around two things. The building of products, so something that people internally would go use, and that would include employees or managers or HR business partners, or data. So in other words, he doesn't want to spend time, or his team's time, aggregating data from all these data sources, because that's not the business that they're in, and it's of marginal value at the end of the day. He would like to partner with those who have done that work, so he and his team can spend time generating insights and affecting change within their organization. So correct me if I'm wrong, that's your core value proposition, that you're doing much of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a lot of what drove even this decision to just open source, give away our skills library, even though we're investing significantly in keeping that updated every 2 weeks, and all the work it does to create machine learning models around it. Because we see, like, if we can put that into the hands of professionals, whether they're in higher education or in people analytics, then they can go about doing the great work that they do without having to have everyone recreate this piece of it. And I think that really goes for us across the board. You know, we think of our data sets as unlocking their ability to do what matters to their firm. You know, because on one hand, like, the data is the same. It's the stack of skills is the same. On the other hand, like, everyone is unique. Like the skills every company needs and the stack of skills every individual has is as unique as our fingerprints. So none of us are exactly the same, but as we understand how those stacks kind of relate to one another, I think we start seeing, hey, there's actually a lot more opportunity here. Like, your stack of skills is actually not that far off from your next opportunity, even if that stack of skills is just like the very starting stack you got as a, you know, working fast food or working as a cashier. You actually gained real skills that are really valuable in the economy. You just need to understand what you need to add, like, adjacent to them to unlock the next level of opportunity, which I think is one of the really exciting things about the move to skills and about our efforts to sort of open source this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You seen anything to share on that?
It's you know, other than being able to create that content, I think our ability to also provide a lot of our technologies through API means that you don't have to be stuck with a product that is not in line with what you need. You can embed all our data into your existing products and enrich it, rather than just keep looking from one place to another for, you know, another data point. And I think that was another accelerator to our adopting our technologies.
Well, I saw a John Oliver episode a couple weeks ago on the weather, and I thought of you. They talked about the National Weather Service and that AccuWeather that pulls data from there, and there's still other products that are built on top. So there's this, but to go deeper is effectively to go harder on the technology and the staging of data. So you all, through your hard work in bringing that data together, having the API connectors. So as we fast forward in the future, you know, what do you see? How do you see EMSI data, the EMSI tool set, you know, being used? Is it connecting to a platform that puts your data next to the core HR and other internal data? And how would you advise organizations to use your tool in 2020 and beyond?
Yeah, I do think one of the big shifts we've seen, people start talking about the API economy. You know, the fact that we went through a time where most data was locked into like a software interface, and so I went here, and then that triggered a question, and I went over here, and maybe I got an answer, or that triggered another question, and I went here. That's not a really efficient way to work. Yeah. And so I think the clear move we see is towards APIs, towards the idea of like, hey, we want to take the key sets from multiple sources, whether it's internal data, EMSI's, external market data, maybe other sources in there, and we want to put those all right at the point of decision, right where everybody's working. So whether it's in, you know, their internal ATS or an HRIS system, or in dashboards like Tableau, Domo, the fact that like you can bring the relevant points right in where people are working, right in where it's going to affect the conversation at that moment is such a more productive way to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also, in addition to having the data at each decision point, I think helping us look into the future and what could happen while we're not forecasting anything beyond what the Bureau of Labor Statistics does, their projections. They are the best at that. But seeing an enterprise vis-a-vis others and starting to see like, okay, we have a challenge here. Like in one of the presentations on some of the challenges in the labor market is how to retain people who are working in wholesale and transportation, and this is a very, very tough job. So you have this happening here, but you have all these conversations about automation happening here. And you ask the firm, like, okay, haven't you heard of automation? Why are you requiring them to carry, parcels that are 80-pound or whatnot when there's all those technologies? And you feel like are we in a different planet? And there are probably pieces in the organization that are already working on that transformation, but there are business as usual. And there will be resistance. How are we going to get you into the future? And a lot of people are thinking that needs to be a different person. But for the process to work without disrupting the operation, it has to be that person who is currently carrying an 80-pound parcel. That is the person who will need to learn automation, and it is not going to replace your job. Understanding how it will transform it, and actually, we need to start, channeling that person into training programs today for the transformation when it happens, because we are already seeing a lot of friction in the economy today. And that lag between you need to find talent, and I can't find the talent, and I'm offering whatever I could offer to get the right talent. That friction is creating a lot of processes to expedite automation and all that. But it's very, very it's very, very segmented, and everything is not connected. Right. So if we're seeing all that on the future of work, you can see, okay, these are all right. This firm is here, but this firm is already using automation and robotic, blah blah blah, in doing their operations. Can we learn from them, and can we start training them from today and create the L&D programs that will also retain this kind of talent, and you are already having that challenge? I think it can be, it can help, and my hope, and EMSI is pushing hard that it can help for future strategies on training and development and all that.
Well, what I'm loving all of it, but one thing in particular is, I believe, and we're talking about it at this summit, we're moving towards this notion that people analytics is facilitating the formulation of work strategies. Mm-hmm. So how is work going to get done from a people perspective? So to your example, if a machine is going to come and lift that 80-pound box on an ongoing recurring basis, a human being, by definition, is not going to be doing that activity. So what are they going to be doing with that time? What skills are they going to be needing to do that? So we can now manage this ecosystem over time. Exactly. You all have been one of the few organizations where, I've seen it in the room. Andrew Kabrichetz came, your founder and CEO, came in years ago to a peer group, and people's jaws dropped. They go, oh, we need that. We want that. And afterwards, the use cases came to pass that now we can make decisions based on data.
Yes.
We can understand where the talent is, where they're not, and the skill sets that we need. So going back to this taxonomy and this notion of workforce planning, call it work strategy, work planning, how work gets done. Are you guiding that discussion and embedded within that? And I know that you are, but why aren't all organizations as excited as those that have taken it on? What's lacking? What's stopping the buyer from saying, okay, this is a priority for us, we're going to use this? What's stopping that from happening?
Yeah, I think one of the changes that's gone on is really it used to be a buyer's market for talent, like not that long ago, coming out of the recession. And so there was this mindset of, hey, we're this name brand, everyone's going to want to work for us. Like we were kind of status quo for a long time that way. And then really quickly over the last 10 years, but particularly over the last 5, like it's accelerated and flipped. And a number of things are driving that. One is, we're at historically low unemployment. The skills needed to thrive in the economy are changing rapidly. So we do have these gaps, and we have really high demand in places like technology, healthcare that are driving part of that. So I think these things have come together, and honestly, some companies have moved really quickly to embrace this challenge. I think the rise of people's ability to work from wherever they want is another big factor in this. Like we're no longer tied to like being in the big city or in a certain location. So all these things are sort of converging in a way that has caught some folks flat-footed, and now all of a sudden they're scrambling to realize like, wow, it's really hard. Like, what are we going to do strategy-wise? Like, we've never embraced remote before. Do we think about remote? We've never really paid a lot of attention to the skill sets within our own workers. So now that maybe parts of their jobs are going to be automated away, like, are we ready to train them? We don't want to lose those people, but are we ready? So I think thinking through those and playing catch up if a firm isn't there is really one of the keys to this. And
before I go on your comments on this topic, Yustina, is I'm finding personally that there's many organizations that don't have, for lack of a better term, the governance structure, the decision-making processes to absorb all this data. Because what we're talking about is multifunctional. It's HR, it's operations, it's IT. So is that what you're finding as well, that maybe the data is more advanced than organizational readiness to adopt and use it? Is that a fair statement? Or
Yes. I think there is a huge change management process that is involved in all this, that, seeing the opportunity, but also like how is the data consumed? And a lot of our work has, like, especially in the last few years, is to try to bring us a full story. So a lot of the data that is out there is like, just like you said, it's going up, it's going down, it's going in the middle. It's many data points, and you find dashboards after dashboards giving you a lot of information, and we are measuring all the KPIs and 1,000 KPI. Like, which one should I look at? And now what we are trying to do is to basically capsule the information, index the information, so you know what the trend is, and to see the context rather than look for things, turning things into measures that you care about, real KPIs about the roles, and a lot of the models that we are creating is exactly for that. Now, communicating that this is doable after, big data means 1,000 data element or thousands of data elements, that, no, you can compare, and actually you are not unique. What is happening here is also happening next door in Indianapolis, and by the way, also happening in Germany. Same thing. So seeing that it actually is a bigger trend, and the macro trend beyond that is more and more is our ticket to adoption, but the barrier, and we are always thinking about the barriers, is that, is it doable? And no, I am unique. I don't need to look at beyond my 4 walls. And by the way, no, beyond my department walls, which is more challenging because, with team building and all that, there's more and more opportunity for cross-functional collaboration. And still with the way we operate is still within this is my department, and the data is not all sweet stories. It is showing the challenges. So there's going to need to be a lot of championship for this adoption that will take us into the future, or otherwise we will just find ourselves like, oops, we're falling into it rather than going smoothly into it.
Well, let me play something back as we start to wrap up. You all have a value proposition for recruiters, for maybe real estate with location strategy, transformation organizations, IT potentially when they're thinking about how disruptions are going to affect the work experience, and that can involve any operations. And what I'm getting at is this: is that your value proposition goes way beyond just HR, and if organizations don't have the structures in place to absorb this, that is a barrier. So hopefully organizations will get more mature in utilizing this information. And we talked about the need for that, given imminent and frankly current disruptions in the marketplace. So as you move forward, and as more organizations are doing workforce planning 2.0, as we talked about, whatever that is going to emerge into being, is I imagine, given that you've open sourced your APIs, that you want to enable others. You're coming not with the answer, do it our way. You're providing a platform by which to create off of. Is that a fair
Exactly,
statement?
exactly. If we are starting to communicate about your challenges, I'm translating your challenges into ways that send signals to, whether it's individual or training providers or all, then we will all, be much more productive. Yeah. That's the hope.
Yeah, and I think one of the realities is this isn't unique to HR or people data, but in a sense, we're all awash in data in every area. And the reality is data can help inform making good decisions, but it doesn't make the decision. If a firm's trying to decide where do we locate, we could probably give them a couple hundred variables that they might think about, and that comes out of very individual things about what's important to their firm or their culture or where they're trying to go in the future. So the story is in the data, but it's only in the data when it's made cohesive and coherent, and then ultimately that just drives good decision making. You still have people making good decisions, just they're much more informed than being anecdotal or we've always done it this way, which can open up a whole level of new opportunities that I think are exciting.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And again, I'm a fan of both of you as well as your organization. Any closing thoughts, Yustina?
We would really love to build that process of the language and the communication in any relationship, and labor market is many relationships. So creating that communication language is key. So the more we use the language, the more we adopt the language, the easier things will get in connecting the dots.
I said a Chinese proverb, the beginning of wisdom is calling things by their right names.
Yes.
And for so long in HR and in other disciplines, we've just been talking past each other. What's that mean? What's that mean? And assuming that we know. So it's great that you're putting that out there so we can truly have a common language on this. Bruce? Yeah,
absolutely. If we can take one small step by getting a common language, by helping people think about these, at the end of the day, what's going on, the change in work, automation is, we've seen historically that's a tide that rises all ships, but there's going to be some folks who are going to feel anchored to the ground in that tide if they don't understand and don't get the help they need to understand from a skills perspective. How do you avoid that? How do you float with that tide so that you have opportunities in this economy? So if open sourcing our skills and having organizations, whether in higher ed or in the enterprise, start to speak the same language and understand what those gaps are and start helping workers understand those and get the training they need, then hey, we've taken one small step towards that.
And this is a key element just to emphasize here as we wrap. Not only is your data reflecting what has happened in the past, it also projects what will likely happen in the future. So it's, if you're crafting the future of work, there's obviously an asset that will help, facilitate that. So, well, congratulations on what you both have achieved. Thanks for sharing and exploring today. And
thank you.
All the best. How can people learn more about EMSI moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Always welcome to hit our website, economicmodeling.com, and you can access our open source skills there, as well as learn about the rest of our services and APIs. And again, it's always a pleasure, always fun to hang out.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.